Hi guys, this is our presentation. We are proposing the idea of cashless bail and talking about amending the Eighth Amendment.
On December 1791, the newly settled United States of America ratified the Bill of Rights. These are the first 10 amendments of the U.S. Constitution. Nowadays, it is hard to believe there would be any opposition to giving written rights to the people. However, there was still opposition from the Federalists. Some of the big names that were part of the Federalists were George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison. They simply thought it was unnecessary. But after 4 years of debate, it was resolved, and the Bill of Rights, inspired by Jefferson and drafted by Madison, was adopted. A Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to against every government on earth, general or particular, and what no just government should refuse or rest on interference. Thomas Jefferson. The American people feared that a centralized government would be too powerful and could abuse this power to step on their rights. Rightfully so. After the recent freedom from the English monarchy, they were untrusty of repeating what they recently fought to escape. One of these rights was the Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment is almost identical to the English Bill of Rights. As they say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. The Eighth Amendment reads as follows: excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel or unusual punishments inflicted. Essentially, a, a just punishment for the crime committed. Ascension law says, lex talionis, an eye for an eye. An issue to consider with this amendment is the Constitution does not mention what is considered an excessive bail or a cruel punishment. That was left for the courts to decide. But what is bail? According to the American Bar Association, bail is the amount of money defendants must post to be released from custody until their trial. Bail is not a fine. It is not supposed to be used as punishment. The purpose of bail is simply to ensure that defendants will appear for trial in all pretrial hearings for which they must be present. When considering bail, an individual's right might be infringed considering the interest of the legal system and society at large. The determination of the monetary bail amount considers things like evidence against the accused and the flight risk of the accused. America's reliance on money bail means that the defendant can afford bail will go free, while the same defendant who cannot afford bail will linger in jail. The bail system is a system that favors the rich and condemns the poor. A former justice of the Supreme Court of California stated that conditional freedom solely on whether an arrestee can afford bail is unconstitutional, after they granted review on its own motion in order to address the constitutionality of money bail in California. A review that came from a case of 79-year-old Kenneth Humphrey, who followed his neighbor inside his apartment and stole $7 and a bottle of cologne. His bail was set at $600,000. The prosecutor argued at the bail hearing that robbery is a serious and violent felony. This is just one of many examples of excessive bails that have been set. By the end of 2016, over 458,600 people were being held in jail despite not being convicted of any crime, including over 65% of all people in jail in the United States. Studies suggest that a significant number of these individuals are in jail simply for lacking the financial means to post bail. Although there are algorithms and risk assessment tools that assist in setting bail, there are arbitrary factors that they don't consider. Some of these tools don't consider things like employment or substance abuse history, or the individuals itself as a person. And when they don't see the defendant as a person, they often look at the wrong things. Existing research on bail practices have consistently found that Black and Latino defendants are subject to higher bail amounts than white defendants, even after controlling for offense severity and prior criminal history. In a similar manner, individuals from more wealthy neighborhoods can afford to make their bail payments and secure their release, as well as receive more favorable outcomes in a bail hearing, while people from lower income communities often remain in detention.
The concerns regarding bail mechanisms are pretty straightforward. There is a real inequality within the system that favors the wealthy while punishing the poor. The financial burden it imposes is a primary drawback, especially if it is a substantial amount of money. The wealthy have no problem coming up with the money, which may secure a pretrial release, and they don't need to worry about bail, whether it is cash or bail bond, because of their wealth. This cash bail has advantages, and there are no real fees, and that allows the defendant to pay exactly what the court asks and gives them privacy by eliminating a third-party bond group. If there are unexpected legal expenses, those with money are able to deal with it. The inequalities arises with those who have little or no money. The poor and minorities are forced to pay for their freedom before trial. Many can't afford to make the bail and have to stay in jail until sentencing, facing the possibility of losing their jobs and the income, which they may need for their families, who they may also lose. This creates a real financial barrier in the judicial process between the poor, who cannot find their house, their freedom, and sit in jail, and then the rich, who are out of the streets. Kaylee Raymond, attorney and advocate for criminal legal reform, suggests reform by claiming the United States is the incarceration capital of the world. This shows that detention can avert greater harm by depriving a person of their liberty. This further demonstrates the impact of the U.S. criminal legal system on individuals and their families, proving our current bail system can be detrimental and that change must be made. We are partially prohibiting an individual by initiating punishment. We don't know if anything actually happened. In the process, we are taking people from their jobs and families. Bail reform is a necessary step to creating safer communities and giving individuals the necessary access to a pretrial process. The legal system must ensure individuals do not suffer undue constraints on their freedom prior to the decision of guilty or innocent.
This video is going to explain the cash bail system.
The cash bail system in the United States is a travesty of justice. By forcing people, almost all of them poor, to come up with money they don't have, it literally keeps them in jail even though they are not guilty of any crime. People lose houses, cars, contact with their family, jobs, all because a prosecutor and a judge decide to impose an unreasonable cash bail on a person's freedom.
What a cash bail system would look like. It would be possible to put in place a cash bail system, which would mean that rather than having a bail, it would be determined by the nature of the offense and the severity of the offense. When it comes to bail, the severity of the crime will be taken into consideration. These individuals will be detained if they pose to threat themselves, to other people, or to the community as a whole. If this was a less significant offense, they would not be detained and would be released. Why is this helpful? The fact that the cash bail is available and is significant since there are numerous instances in which an individual is detained because they are unable to pay the bond. They will be deprived of their employment and their homes, which can be a significant problems for individuals. Other people who have money are released from custody, and if they're unable to pay the bond, they are released from custody. Having cashless bail would be beneficial since it would eliminate the challenges associated with keeping individuals who are unable to pay the bond and taking up space if they are not a threat to the community or themselves. By doing so, the court system will no longer have that financial barrier. Why is this fair? In the light of this, the courts will take a moment to carefully assess the individuals to whom they will give bail. Instead of having two people commit the same crime, one of whom is wealthy and the other who is living paycheck to paycheck, and having the wealthy person be able to pay his bail while the other person is forced to remain on hold because they are unable to pay. This will offer everyone an opportunity to be treated fairly. If a crime that has been committed is a justification to provide bail, then it is fair there is a reason why they should not be allowed to leave the facility after being arrested.
Cashless bail has been a hotly debated and contested issue within our legal system. Many states have either debated, implemented, or have proposed cashless bail systems. And from some of their models, we have formed our consensus on how to handle this issue to begin with. California's risk-based pretrial release process has formed the template for what should be expected for a cashless bail system. That being replacing cash bail with a pretrial risk assessment system and process based on a multitude of factors like being a flight risk. Some states' proposed models have had different analyzed risk factors, however, like New Jersey, which adds the risk factor of if the accused will be at risk to obstruct or attempt to obstruct the criminal justice process. So in spite of some of these different approaches, mostly based on levels of safety concern, there have been a consistent, concerted effort to form a cashless bail system, and every day that goal becomes closer. It is a testament to the necessity of this change that so many states, as of now, are formulating their own proposals for cashless bail. And while not every state is following this lead, it cannot be said that recent efforts to forge policy have not been a huge success for advocates of cashless bail. While many states that have already implemented their own systems, like California, which stands as a strong example to follow and stands as proof that a cashless bail system is a realistic, attainable goal to achieve. In light of this, it can be said that these breakthroughs in policy, advocacy, and implementation are a huge success of advocates of the cashless bail system and any of those who would wish to change the interpretation and reform the Eighth Amendment in our legal system. The Eighth Amendment is so important because the founders experienced the courts possess an immense power over those they are charged with adjudicating. And if that power is not regulated and controlled, the courts can very easily work against the interests of the public. To this end, the Eighth Amendment stands to prevent our legal system from making cruel or unjust legal decisions. This includes bail, which, as the amendment reads, excessive bail shall not be required. However, today, this is not the case. Any bail which forces someone to choose between their financial security or choosing between their bail or a self-financed legal defense should be seen as excessive. However, today, that is a choice that thousands must make, and many simply don't have a choice. They cannot afford bail and are uneligible to receive a bail bond. It should be common knowledge to think that if bail is unaffordable, it is excessive, and therefore, as it is today, unconstitutional. A system that has the public safety in mind, while making bail more accessible for all and removing any financial barriers, would be more to the founders' intentions given modern circumstances. To conclude, a cashless bail system has at heart the concerns of those Americans who struggle most, those who are the victims of poverty and discrimination. The bail system as it stands today works against and not for aforementioned groups, as the fact simply remains that those who cannot afford bail or cannot afford to choose bail over their financial security are forced to languish in jail before trial, regardless of how innocent or guilty they are. It is yet another severe injustice leveled against those who already must deal with disproportionate incarceration, disproportionate conviction, disproportionately poor access to legal representation. And if America wishes to continue to live up to the vision of the founders and to live up to the promises it has made, a strong effort must be made to help those in the greatest need of legal reform. And to that end, we are of the opinion the first step should be to amend the Eighth Amendment and create a cashless bail system. That has been our presentation on a cashless bail system. Thank you and have a good day.